Hi, my name is Vlad and our team welcomes you to the MotoPhD channel. With over 20 years of combined experience as professional racer, coach and mechanic and factory BMW Motorrad team, I have a lot of things to share. So don't hesitate and improve your knowledge to PhD level with us.
And today I want to dive into a very important motorcycle topic, give you some solid advice, show practical exercises, and bust a few myths. In other words, I want to do a detailed breakdown of how exactly a motorcycle brakes. I want to approach this question from a practical point of view and explain really important information to you in simple terms. According to statistics, the biggest reason motorcyclists get into accidents is speeding. You can't argue with statistics, but I'm deeply convinced that half of these accidents could have been avoided with good effective braking skills. What exactly is effective braking? Let's figure it out. The main brake on any motorcycle that rides on asphalt is the front brake. After all, when we brake, the weight of the motorcycle shifts forward onto the front wheel. Accordingly, because of the strong friction between the front wheel and the asphalt, the front brake is the primary one. And here we come to the first practical point. Tires and brake pads. This is the only modification I make to my city motorcycles. And I do it so that, during hard braking, the front wheel lock-up threshold is as high as possible. My personal choice for city motorcycles is the Michelin Road 5. I know there's already a version 6, but I haven't tested it yet, so I can't say anything about it. But good tires aren't the only factor that affects your braking. Even the best tires have their grip limits, and you need to approach that limit gradually. In other words, the force you apply to the brake should be progressive. As I explained during personal training sessions, your initial press on the brake should be smooth, gentle, and careful. The intensity of front brake braking depends only on how hard and how quickly you apply it afterward. This is done so that the tire is loaded progressively, increasing the friction with the asphalt. Because if you slam on the brake, the front suspension won't have time to react. The front fork will compress instantly, and the entire mass of the motorcycle multiplied by inertia will transfer to the front wheel. Here's a real-life example. If someone puts a 20-kilogram bag on you, then another 20 kilograms and another 20 kilograms, it'll be hard, but you'll still be standing. But if you drop a 60-kilogram bag on yourself all at once, you'll most likely lose your balance. It's the same with tires. They need to be loaded gradually. That's exactly why our main goal is to learn how to apply the brakes progressively, but at the same time reach peak force as quickly as possible and stay there. That's why another factor that affects the threshold at which your front wheel locks up is your suspension. The more energy absorbing your suspension is, not to be confused with being stiff or long travel, the more force it will absorb and the less it will transfer to the front wheel. Accordingly, the lockup threshold will be higher. And ideally, you should service your suspension once a season, not wait until it starts leaking. After all, it uses the same kind of oil inside as your engine, and over time, it loses its properties. The last external factor is the condition of the surface and the temperature regime. One of the most common questions is about braking in the rain. You need to understand that in the rain, grip drops by about 30%. Accordingly, the force you apply to the front brake should be about 30% less than the maximum effective force. But if you're just slowing down before a traffic light, do it as usual. There's no need to worry. The only thing is, avoid braking on road markings. They're especially slippery in the rain. And of course, avoid large puddles to prevent hydroplaning. The second extremely important point is your body position at the moment of braking. In general, everything in this world strives for balance, and you should do the same. Compensate, that is, balance all the inertial forces acting on you while braking. When braking, you're pulled forward. You won't want to fly over the handlebars, so you'll instinctively brace your hands against the handlebars, which creates excessive pressure on the front wheel. As a result, the threshold for locking up or losing grip with the front wheel will come sooner. That's why, just before braking, your job is to lean back and compensate for the inertial forces that will pull you forward. And here's the most important point. It's to really press your knees hard against the tank and try to lean back, not by pushing off the handlebars with your hands, but by engaging your abs and back muscles to lift yourself back and stabilize yourself with your back muscles. At the same time, we must make sure to keep our arms straight because no matter what we say, always, there is a load on your arms when braking. Yes, our goal is to minimize it, but the load is still there, so it's better for that load to be absorbed by a straight joint rather than by bent arms and muscles, which can cause slight tremors and instability during braking. Lean your back slightly backward, keep your chest over the handlebars, press your knees tightly against the motorcycle and your elbows. They should be straight. This is the correct braking position. This body position will help you feel comfortable and confident while braking. And most importantly, don't overload the front wheel with your body weight. Load it with braking force instead, which will shorten your stopping distance. The key here is to find that synchronization. I'll explain this in more detail when we move on to the practical exercises. The rear brake, what function does it serve? During hard braking, almost none, up to 15%. So focusing your attention on using the rear brake during emergency braking is pretty much pointless, especially if you're a beginner. Yes, on cruisers, big adventure bikes, and scooters. The rear brake plays a slightly bigger role than it does on street bikes or sport bikes. In that case, you need to clearly understand that you can separate the use of the front and rear brakes. What do I mean by that? How do we apply the front brake? Gradually, progressively. Proper intensive use of the rear brake means being able to apply the right amount of force immediately. At the same time, you need to understand that the more effectively you use the front brake, the more your rear wheel will become unloaded. Accordingly, the optimal force, that is the pre-locking state, will also change. And when practicing the exercises, you'll definitely encounter a situation where your rear ABS kicks in. Ideally, you'll need to ease off the rear brake a bit while continuing to squeeze the front brake. That's what I mean by separating the brakes. And from my 10 years of coaching experience, I can say that very few people manage to do this right away. So my advice is, in emergency situations, focus exclusively on the front brake, especially if you're a beginner. But if you feel confident, practice braking with both brakes. Just make sure you can clearly separate their use. But in everyday riding, of course, you need to develop the reflex of braking with both brakes. Personally, I actually use the rear brake more effectively than the front in terms of percentage, because it's softer, smoother, more pleasant, and it makes it easier to judge your stopping distance when coming to a smooth, gentle stop. I've mentioned more than once that ABS is working. A motorcycle should have ABS. Of course, a modern city motorcycle absolutely must be equipped with ABS, both the front and the rear. This is such a fundamental safety system that even with my driving skills, I wouldn't go out into the city or take on those unnecessary risks without it. How do you practice this in real life? First of all, I recommend you check the tire pressure, because if there's too much pressure, your wheel will slide. If the tire is underinflated, on the other hand, it will compress too much. This will cause excessive grip on the front wheel and a higher chance that you'll end up doing a stoppie. Stop by a gas station or use a professional pressure gauge to check the pressure in the front tire. In general, don't forget to check your tire pressure at least once every 2 weeks. It's important. On average, the pressure on a motorcycle should be around 2.5. Right now, mine is at 2.7. Let's let some air out and try to set the pressure when the tires are cold. And I recommend you start with the first exercise, which is called gas brake. This will help you get your body used to it, understand how to counteract all the inertial forces, and achieve what's called synchronization. What do I mean by that? So that your wrist works in sync with your core and back muscles. Because if you open the throttle first and then lean forward, it won't have the desired effect. We need the effect of compensation, of inertia. So, throttle, lean back, then hit the brake. If you lean back first and then hit the brake, inertia will still pull you forward. You'll start bracing your hands against the handlebars, which creates unnecessary pressure on the front wheel. And here, the main goal is to catch that synchronization, the synchronization between your wrist and your body.
Okay, the basic gas brake exercise. We accelerate a little, move our body forward in sync, and lean back at the moment of braking. Gas, brake, gas, brake. Lean back in sync, and when braking, squeeze your knees against the tank.
The essence of this process comes at the moment of braking. You'll feel like you're standing still while the bike moves around underneath you like this. And you won't be pulled forward or backward at all. If you've never done this while riding, give it a try. It will turn your motorcycle world upside down and drastically improve how you feel during acceleration and braking. Second exercise, take 4 objects, mark your braking point, and place a cone further ahead. 5, 10, 15, 20 meters. Start at a low speed, 40 kilometers per hour. Smooth, gentle, progressive braking. Try to stop within 15 meters. Gradually reduce it and aim for 10. Did you do it? Great, now increase your speed. Go up to 60 kilometers per hour, 20 meters. And gradually you reach the 15-meter mark. But remember, there's a certain danger here. Because psychologically you think, oh, I'm starting to go faster, so I need to brake harder. No, your optimal braking force should be exactly the same at any speed. whether it's 20, 60, or 120 kilometers per hour. The only thing that will change as your speed increases is the length of your braking distance, and you need to take that into account. When your speed increases by 20 kilometers per hour, your braking distance roughly doubles. If the optimal braking distance from 40 kilometers per hour is 6 to 7 meters, then from 60 kilometers per hour, it will already be 13 to 15 meters, and from 80 kilometers per hour, it will be 20 to 25 meters. So you absolutely need to keep this in mind. 40 kilometers per hour, 15 meters. Gradually increase the braking intensity. Smoothly press down further. 40 kilometers per hour, maximum intensity front brake. 7 meters. Next, we add the rear brake and watch to see if we can separate the brakes. Or, on the contrary, does the rear brake actually increase our braking distance because we lose focus? Maximum effective braking at 60 kilometers per hour using both brakes. 12 meters. If you notice that as you practice hard braking, your brake performance gets worse, the lever feels softer or spongier, that's the first sign you need to get your bike serviced. Or, like in our case, when I was doing really hard braking for half an hour straight while we were filming different shots, we just ended up overheating the brakes, but we simply let the bike cool down. And everything was fine. The minimum brake maintenance you need is to change the brake fluid at least once a year, bleed the brakes, regularly check the pads, and wash the calipers. Washing the calipers is something people often neglect. In racing, we wash the calipers every day. After every training day, we always wash and clean the calipers. And if we have wet races, we wash the calipers after every run. This exercise is about emergency braking. But actually in the city, we don't have to brake hard all that often. Most of the time though, our braking is smoother and more gradual, downshifting as we slow down. Let's take 60 kilometers per hour as an example. A comfortable distance is about 20 to 25 meters of braking with moderate intensity, and we work with precise timing. Okay, you know you're going 60 kilometers per hour and you have 20 meters to brake. You have 3 actions to perform. Start braking, shift gears, finish braking, and come to a stop, or you release the brake and keep going. So, you need to divide those 20 meters into 3 equal sections. Roughly, in the first 7 meters, you start braking, stabilize yourself, and make sure everything is good. The next 7 meters are for downshifting. The last part is either for coming to a complete stop or releasing the brake as you enter the turn. Precise timing. Start braking, downshift, stop, clutch in, grip. The next step is to learn how to release the brakes. In other words, just as we should press the brakes firmly, we also need to release them properly right before entering the turn. When the fork compresses from the braking force and we suddenly let go of the brake, it rebounds quickly. And if at that moment we need to turn and the motorcycle turns with the front wheel, there's very little weight on the front wheel, so steering will be worse. That's why our goal is to apply the brake progressively and learn to release it gradually as well. This way, the suspension will rebound smoothly and you'll always have good contact on the front wheel. We develop the reflex of pressing and releasing the brake. Press, release, let go of the brake, and go into the turn. Also, start doing this exercise at 40 kilometers per hour and gradually increase your speed and braking intensity. Once you learn how to properly release the brakes, you'll already be halfway to mastering trail braking, that is, braking into a turn. After you've practiced releasing the brake, we train to avoid obstacles and perform the so-called moose test. Set up a corridor with 2 cones and 4 meters later place another set of markers. And our task is to go around this obstacle either to the right or to the left. The most important thing is not to steer while holding the brake tightly. In other words, your goal is to learn how to calculate your braking force and stopping distance so that you brake as efficiently and as long as possible before steering, release the brake, and only then start turning the handlebars. Because with the fork compressed hard, your steering will be much duller and slower. Braking and using counter-steering to avoid obstacles, release the brake, swerve around. Increase the intensity of braking. And for multitasking, you can also add downshifting. Brake, downshift, steer around. Maximum difficulty, intense acceleration, braking, both brakes, obstacle avoidance. That's it! I've just told you the entire set of braking exercises that I personally teach at the motorcycle school. Use them. There's a very common myth that you need to pull in the clutch at the start of braking, and that's absolutely not true. In general, you should spend the minimum amount of time riding with the clutch pulled in. When you pull in the clutch, your motorcycle basically turns from a motorcycle into a very heavy and fast-moving bicycle because you lose the key connection, the link between the engine and the wheel. And for braking, that's 3 times as bad because you also lose engine braking. This is really important, and it's absolutely wrong if you do it any other way. Another common myth is that during emergency braking, you should first use the rear brake and then the front brake. Yes, there is some logic to that. Everyone says that by doing this, you first lower the center of mass a bit, and then your weight transfer to the front wheel happens more smoothly. That's all true, but let's not forget that the main brake is the front one. In the moment of emergency braking, if you try to properly shift your weight from the rear wheel to the front, you'll lose much more braking intensity than if you just start braking with the front brake right away. And if we're talking about gentle braking, well, that's why it's called gentle braking. You'll naturally start to use both the rear and front brakes smoothly anyway, and you won't experience any sudden jolts. So, we're busting this myth as well. Another myth, the heavier and bigger the motorcycle, the worse it stops. Modern motorcycles are quite well balanced, and usually, depending on the weight and power of the motorcycle, they install a braking system that will provide more or less the same effective braking performance given the same skill level on any motorcycle. So, shall we bust the myth that a motorcycle's weight affects its braking intensity? 80 kilometers per hour, both brakes, maximum intensity. And as you can see, after just a few tries on the heavier, more powerful Triumph Tiger 675, my braking distance differed by only 1.5 meters at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour. Which proves that it's a myth, and the weight of the motorcycle does not really affect the braking distance. But the suspension, brake pads, and tires have a huge impact on your braking performance. So the main brake on a motorcycle is the front brake. And you need to use it progressively, knowing the limits of your tires and suspension. And at the same time, you should assess external factors like road conditions and temperature. But without proper body movement and compensating for inertial forces, nothing will work. It's like the power just goes out. Never pull in the clutch during emergency braking. And if anyone tells you otherwise, don't listen to them. And don't hesitate to regularly practice the exercises mentioned above. At some point, it could literally save your life. Thank you for watching. Yours, MotoPhD.